We're back. I'm Duncan from Auto Shine and Tintin, and this is a video I've been waiting to make for a very long time. The comparison between the Range Rover Sport SVR and the brand new Range Rover Sport SV Edition 1. We're going to jump straight to the bit that I've been thinking about the most, the noise difference between the 5-litre V8 and the brand new BMW sourced 4.4 V8. Let's see what they're like. First up is the SV. Let's see what it's got. Okay, fairly quiet. Just so you know, these aren't cold starts. It has been running for 5 minutes. We didn't want to do a cold startup, so quite quiet. It is a little louder when it is cold. Let's see what it's like when we put it in SV mode so it opens the flaps. Okay, it does go a bit louder, and then we're going to see what it's like under a small amount of rev. Sounds lighter then. Sounds very much like the BMWs, the M5s, does unsurprisingly really. It is a deeper note than what I think we were about to hear on mine, but yeah, does sound nice when it's revved up. Next up, my SVR. I'm going to stay unbiased, so let's see what it's like when it started. That is nicer. I'm not being biased here. You've got a little bit of a pop and a bang when you start it. Okay, now open the valves. I can hear the valves opening electronically, but they didn't make too much of a difference on this. Right, now give it a rev. And again. See, that one's proper. Maybe I'm a bit too scared to rev that one, but because it's not my car, this does sound better. There's no denying it. The 5-litre does sound better. It's a bit of a higher pitched noise. I've always thought with the BMs they're a bit too low. The tone of them is too low for me personally. But it does. They both sound really nice. But I do think the 5-litre sounds nicer. Give it another one. Right, on to the next bit. So the first thing I noticed was how huge this car looks next to the SVR, and that is because it's so flat at the front and high there. So at the big front of the car, it's sort of that height when you compare it to the old one, and both these vehicles are in access height. And that makes the SVR look a little sleeker, I think, at the front, where this just looks a monster. So it's all very, very different looks. Then we move on to the bonnets. The SVR bonnet, they're both carbon bonnets, but the SVR's got the vents in it. This doesn't have the vents. Well, it's got the side ones, but it's still got the exposed carbon around there. I like both designs. I think it's equally nice. Underneath mine, obviously, I've got the forged carbon wrap on it, but it's got the exposed carbon down there. But again, I don't want to get too much into the looks because that's all down to personal taste. Both cars look very nice. There's things I like equally on both cars. I think that just looks meaner, where this just, I don't really know. I like bits from both cars, to be honest. Let's move on to the wheels. Now, the wheels and brakes. There is no denying those brakes are much better than on the SVR. They're more impressive, they'll stop. I would say that's the only thing. The brakes on the SVR, for how fast they go, they're good brakes. They're Brembos, I think they're 6 spots on them. They do stop you, but they could be better, and you do notice it when you're motoring. There's a lot of weight in that car, so you do notice the brakes aren't quite as good, and that's been the only thing I've thought throughout 3.5 years of ownership. I would like the brakes to be a touch better. Well, these. Now, this has got the carbon wheels and the carbon brakes, but they're both factory options, and they're not cheap factory options either. For the wheels and the brakes are £15,000, so it's a significant amount of money, but I don't think I could have this car without both. Because they make the car, they are a mega impressive setup, and I think if you're going to spend the money on these cars, you've got to go all in. So for me, a lot of money, but you've got to have both. So as we've just touched on money, let's talk about the cost of these cars. So those, when they were brand new, they were ranged between 114 and 125 grand, I think. These range from 175 to 189, 190. Massive jump up. I think they're like 175k basic. You add the wheels and the brakes on. Big money, big jump. We will factor that in at the end when we come to doing conclusions. Let's move on. Another big change is the door handles. These are retractable. I like they're retractable. What I don't like, my complaint on every new Range Rover, is the noise they make. It's ridiculously loud, and they should invest in a quieter motor for a £190,000 car. Ridiculous. You can't get over sort of, these are a lot more details, especially when you look at the car. They've got the big recess, there's a lot more lines on the car, and on the new one they've got rid of all that, and it's now just nice flat. You've got the one line along there, but the rest is really flat compared to the side of these. When you've got this extra line, you've got all this thing sticking out. These are completely flat. I think that obviously it's the modern, what do they call that look, Nathan? Minimalistic look, and it's all the rage now. But I do think it takes away from the character, especially when the cars are black, because you just lose a lot. While I'm here, because I've just seen them in the light, the carbon badges on these look absolutely incredible, and that is something I prefer. Right, moving inside, they're both obviously very nice cars to be in, but they are quite different. So they've moved on the door panel, you've got this carbon trim here. The seat controls have been moved from the side of the seat on there. It doesn't really make a difference where they are. What I don't like is the location of this door handle now to open the door. It's too far forward, so you've got to pull it, hinge it open, and then push with your elbow. It just doesn't feel very user-friendly. And also one thing I really don't like is this window bar here, and they've put this epoxy little window in there. Just doesn't flow. They're obviously going on the whole minimalistic design with the rest of the car, but they've put something else in there. It just feels clunky. Moving to the inside, to the centre, sorry, you've now got all this flipping gloss black plastic that scratches, gets fingerprints, and it just looks boring as anything. So you've got this lovely dry carbon here with edition 1. That's a really nice touch. But in this SV, this should all be carbon, in my opinion. You're paying the money. This should be different to the standard Range Rover. This should be carbon, this should be nice, but it's not. When the new Range Rover Sport first came out, you had climate controls here. About a year ago, they got rid of them, and now you've just got this, another like a storage thing there, a hole where I think it's got wireless phone charging, but it's just too much plastic. They've even got rid of, and this is, I hate this, they've got rid of the volume control. In the SVR, when you drive them, the volume control is just where you want it perfectly. Now, I've only got it on the steering wheel, and then I've got to faff around with this daft system that everything is on. Now, everything is on this system, and there's only one word for it. No, there's two words: annoying and dangerous, because everything's on it. Not everything on this system can be there straight away, because it needs to do too much, so you've got to go messing around. I like this. This is ceramic, feels very nice. I think it would scratch very easily with my ring, maybe, but it's a ceramic, so maybe not. But it's satin black ceramic, very nice, feels cool. What I do like about the seats is the illuminated light. That's cool. When you put it in SV mode, it goes red. Really nice touch. The rest of the seat, very boring, not very sporty. The seats in the SVRs, the Gen 1s and the Gen 2s like that one, have always been really like noticeable, much different to the standard model. These are very much similar. They're comfy, but they're not very sporty at all. Starting the car, one thing I really like is the SV mode. So you've got the switch on the steering wheel, you simply press it, puts it in SV mode, whereas on the old one you had to like mess around with, you had to press in a thing, I'll show you, not as straightforward. So that automatically opens the exhaust valves, makes the suspension firmer, steering firmer, probably does a few little other things on the map, on the accelerator and things like that, and just makes everything red. So I do like that. Other than that, that's it. It's a very nice place to be, which we always expected. Let's go to the SVR and compare. Interior of the SVR, I've obviously spent 3.5 years in this car, and it's still a very nice place to be. It doesn't feel dated. The biggest difference is you've got the 2 screens, everything is on here. So when I'm driving, I've got all in like exactly where my hand would be when I'm driving. I've got volume, I've got temperature, I've got fan speed, I've got exhaust, I've got everything I need. Seats, climate, it's all nice and easy under its own tabs, and it's easily accessible. Put in the SV mode, I have to raise that and then just put it in SV mode, or dynamic mode they call it on these, not SV mode. So yeah, that's pretty straightforward. It's not a flat nice red light there. I do prefer the button there, and it turns everything red, but carbon. So the carbon on this car, this has got the interior carbon option, which I think most SVs have. This is just very nice. It's got the SVR on the steering wheel. It's just a lovely place to be. The doors, the door handles further back in the door, so it's much more user-friendly and easier to open. I don't have to dig my elbow into it to push it because the door handle's so far forward. That's nicer. The seats hasn't got the illuminated, but it's got these lovely chrome trims there. I really like them, and the seats just look and feel sportier. I just think overall this is a more interesting interior. There's more going on, and I think that's better. I don't think you need less going on. I think you need everything while you're driving where you want it, and it looks nice on these two big screens. The fact after 3.5 years, but I think this model actually came out in 2019, so 5 years old, this design is, and it still feels modern, still feels a lovely place to be. So to conclude, it's really not that easy for me to do this. So there's so many different aspects, because this is a car I've had 3.5 years and I'm a petrol head, and it takes a really special car to entertain me for 3.5 years, and it's still doing that. I love that car. This, there is no getting away with it. It's quicker, it's got better brakes, the suspension is bound to be better, but when I first got this is 575 brake horsepower. You cannot use all this. I was considering remapping it. I went into my friend whose had been remapped. Yes, it was quicker, but it was absolutely pointless me doing it, risking my warranty, spending the money, because you can't use a fraction of this. You're not going to track either of these cars. So the fact it's quicker really doesn't make too much of a difference in life. This car is better in most aspects in tiny little bits, and that's what I love. So if they were the same money, this is the better car. Probably the fact that it's so everything's all on the screen would drive me insane every day of my life, but I'd probably still go with it. But the fact is that car is probably now, because they've crashed because of the insurance, it's probably worth about 60 grand, which is making them the best value money on the road at the moment. But I'd have to put, what, 120, 130 grand on top of this to get one of these. For me, just no way whatsoever I would consider doing that. Obviously, this is the edition one. The standard SV is going to be, I think, about 140k plus options. So let's call it a 150 grand car. It's 90 grand I'd have to put into it. Still, the only conclusion I can come up to this is, am I going to place an order for one of these? No, I'm not. If they were the same cost, then yes, I would have this, and I'd just live with being annoyed every day with the stupid system, but they're not the same value. They're very different costs. And for me, right now, I'm not going to be placing an order. That's the only conclusion I can come up with. Very nice, but I'm not going to be placing an order just yet anyway. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know in the comments. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and comment what you think of these two new cars. Which would you have? Check out the other content on our channel, and we will see you next time. Thanks for watching.